Hey everybody, I'm Kelsey, as you said, I'm the lead cartographer and designer at Stamen Design, and today I'm going to talk to you about working on maps that are not yours, that are maps for clients, and how to navigate, pun maybe intended, that process. So if you don't know us, or maybe if you do, Stamen is we call ourselves a design studio, an agency, consultancy might be a word you would use, but anything that touches data viz or cartography is our domain. You might know us for maps we've created over the years, like watercolor, toner, and terrain. You'll probably see these across the internet in lots of various places. Watercolors in the Smithsonian Permanent Collection. But the bulk of the work we do actually is for clients. I would say like 90%, maybe more than that actually. And they tend to fall into the buckets that you see here, which are small on my screen, but they are data storytelling, interactive data experiences, and full stack cartography. And so I'm going to focus mostly on cartography, probably mostly that last bucket, but I work on all of these, so a lot of this advice is applicable to all three. And I want to say, like, I'm talking here about external clients, like clients that are not people I work with day to day, but for your case, your client might be your boss. It might be someone up the chain that you have to get to approve something you're working on. So hopefully a lot of this advice is helpful, even if this isn't your exact use case at your job. So that's something to keep in mind. Or if you're a freelancer and you do client work like this, then hopefully it's really relevant for you too. But when we start a project with a client, usually they come to us and they come to us with a couple of things in mind. What they think they need, which is not usually what they actually need, but what they think they need is like a product, something with a data set that they have, or a story that they want to tell. The cartography projects tend to fall more into the product category, like I want to make a map that does this thing, or looks like this, or supports my app in this way. And then they'll also usually tell us when they need it by. So I need this in a month, I need this in a year, I need this in 6 months. Like it can really range a lot. And they're generally very cagey about like how much money you want to spend, although that is really important to determine like how many people will work on the project, how long will it take, how in depth can we go. This is all business stuff that I don't really want to care about, but unfortunately like that is part of working for clients. You have to care about those things. But, you know, it matters, so people should be more forthcoming with what they want to spend. And what clients think they need tends to run like along a series of spectra, so it could be like they have really great data that is well maintained and that they've spent a lot of time developing, or like they don't even know what we mean when we say data. It's usually somewhere in between those two things. Ideally, we have really nice data to work with, but that is not the most common. For like problem solving, it's like I know what the problem is and I have a solution in mind, or I know what the problem is and I have no idea, please help me. We prefer if you're like, you know what the problem is and you have some kind of idea, but we like to have a little room to work with because we can tell you what we think is probably a good solution for you because we've been doing this for a long time. And then with mapping in particular, it can be really like, I'm a cartographer and I need more cartographers to help make my maps better, or I've never made a map before and I don't even know how to do that. Can you do that for us? So it can be really all over the place, which is kind of fun. Every project is very different. So I want to talk about this process and how we go from like, here's what I think I need, to this final product that we have at the end and how we manage that. So over the course of a project, we'll usually start with discovery. And this is like something that clients never want to pay for, but you really need to do. Because it's like impossible to start a big project and know every single thing that you want. Because often you don't even know what the solution is you're looking for, you just know the problem that you have. It's hard to write thorough, unimpeachable requirements when you're not the expert. And so we ask you for a lot of information, and then we go through all of it, and we have you tell us about what it is that you do every day, and you would be shocked by how much people learn by telling you what their job is. Like, they have to articulate it to people who don't know, And you learn so much from that process, and they learn a lot too. And we figure out everything that we need that we have, everything that we need that we don't have, and kind of level set like what's possible to do with everything that you've provided for us, and what you need to go and get for us to make this happen for you. And now by the end of this, usually like a week or two process, we have a sense of what you actually need, not what you said you needed, which are almost never the same. And now we're ready to start the project. So I'll give you an example. We recently did a project with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is like an administration within the Catholic Church. And the deliverable was an interactive map of this print map, which shows different dioceses and eparchies in the United States. I will not try to explain what that is, but administrative boundaries within the Catholic Church. And the biggest question was like, who uses this? What can they not get out of the print map? Why do they need an interactive map? And they didn't actually know the answer, and we had to kind of talk to them and figure that out, and we discovered some users they had never even really thought about before. So doing that was really helpful for us and for them. And then we get to a point where we identify what fits within the scope of the project we've agreed to, like we have a timeline of like maybe 3 months or something, and say, this is what we can do for you with what you have. These things are squarely out of scope. And then these are the things, if we have time, we would love to do, but they're not critical. And that really helps everyone feel like we're on the same page. There's no surprises. And sometimes we'll throw a sketch or two in there. I like to do that usually pretty early to make sure when I say like a map interface with UI on top of it, that we're talking about the same thing, because that's like our language and not theirs. And that helps a lot too, to get a sense of like, is this what you had in your mind, or are we on a totally different page? So once you've done discovery, the prep and ride along week to week is really important. So I found personally like it's really helpful to be super prepared, ask a lot of questions, have a lot of things documented. We used Figma, as you might have seen in the last slide, to have little whiteboards for every meeting that we have with clients, so that'll be like 1 per week, and have notes of things you want to talk about so you don't forget. There's a lot of details, so it's easy to forget things. And then the client can add comments, and then you can kind of see the progress of a project, and it's pretty satisfying to see how it evolves from start to finish over the course of, in some cases, like multiple years. And like if they have a question, it's like, well, you actually asked for this like 3 months ago, and I'll show you where. We can change it, but it's like there's a little history that is good for everyone to have. You could use AI, I guess, for transcripts or recordings or note-taking. I feel like this just creates a lot of waste, but that's up to you and the client. If they're cool with that and that's something you want to do, that's fine. I find writing things down myself helps me remember. It's also nice because like this board system we use has a lot of incremental progress. So in cartography, every time you're working on something, it doesn't look nice, right? Like you got to start with just data and then make a map, and then make the map look nicer, and then keep iterating and working to continue defining the cartography of the project you're working on. But the client doesn't want to not see anything along the way. You need to be able to show them things are happening, even if you don't have a beautiful map to show yet. So showing that like behind the scenes work is really helpful. And also being able to articulate your vision for a project is really helpful. So they feel like there are no surprises, that they've agreed to everything, and that you're collaborating on this project. It's not, I'm doing work for you, it's we're working on it together. And that helps so much. I can think of almost every problem we've ever had is we were not clear enough with someone up front, and then they are like, where did this come from? So it's really good to just keep asking questions and keep showing progress of work. This is another project. Oh, this is from last week, a project that we're working on right now. How we like to stay prepared and do this ride-along process. So like a calendar to show where we are over the course of the project. This one ends at the end of October, so we're like almost done. And you can see there are some maps, some sketches in there, and the map looks totally different than this now. This was last week. we updated it after this meeting, and now it's completely different. So lots of notes here, and it's really easy to go back and see the progress. And again, like this client is really happy. They're like, wow, last week was good, and this week is even better, and that is exactly what we want to see. So that's kind of like how we document things and like the structure we have in place, but there are a lot of strategies that we use to help our clients achieve the goals that they have in mind. The biggest one, I think, for us is client education. So a lot of times clients come to us and don't know much about cartography or data visualization or design. So it's important to listen and kind of get on their level and understand what their comfort level is and explain things in a way that they can understand. A lot of that is showing instead of telling. So like me talking cartography, speak at them is not going to get me very far if they don't understand what a lot of the jargon that we use here means. Another one, clarifying like what is real, what's like fake data, what are designs, what are like full implementation of whatever it is you're working on, and telling them what kind of feedback you want is helpful. Like, what do you think is not really a great question. It's like, what do you think about this color palette? Do you like this font choice? Is there something about this that feels off to you? Like, there are kind of guided questions that I feel like have really helped get the feedback that you need in that moment so your progress can keep happening without them saying, you know, I don't like it. Like, I don't like it doesn't really help me that much. I need to know what about it you don't like. And then also it's really important to be realistic about what's doable given restraints, like given the lack of like really clear, hard requirements for projects. And you know, cartography is an art and a science, so like we're limited by what data has available in it already, and what I like might not be what they like. So being realistic about like, okay, we're gonna do a few versions of this and give you some options to choose from. That's another one of my strategies that's coming up in a second. But being clear, like, it's done by this day, and you have a chance for feedback along the way. So no one, again, is surprised about the scope being different than what you originally talked about. So a good example, this is a client that we're about to start more work with. This is Notion, which is like a kind of like a Google Docs app. It's like really nice looking note-taking. And there's like an AI component, and they added a map feature that just launched like last week or the week before. This client, they're designers, and so I could talk to them about color palettes till I'm blue in the face, and they will understand everything that I'm talking about. I sent them screenshots, and they sent me back Photoshop files where they edited the colors. That's never happened before, and I was like, wow, okay. I don't need to explain anything to you guys. You know exactly what you're doing. But then when it comes to like the tech stack that you need for cartography, for web mapping, that is totally out of their wheelhouse. And so explaining how all the pieces fit together is really, really important for them. And they really appreciated this. And now we're about to do one of these things. I think the medium term, the yellow one here. But it's nice like giving them all of the inputs that we spend all of our time thinking about how you might do work and what is the best thing to do. And we'll recommend something and then give you other options in case for some reason like what we think is best doesn't fit with your larger goals as a business. And having all this info really helped them figure out what they wanted to actually do. Oh boy, this is the menu that you want to avoid. So as a cartographer, I feel like I was never taught to try a lot of things and provide a lot of options. This is more of like a product design thing that I've learned over time, but try to avoid this menu. I found like whenever you give too many options, you get into the you design, we advise territory, and we don't want that because we're hired to be the designers, and when you start giving people too many options, they're like, well, what if it was green, but it was a little bit lighter or a little bit darker or all of these things? And it's like, there's a reason I didn't show you that option because that isn't going to work here. But giving like a limited number of options can help clients feel like they're helping to make these decisions along the way. And again, that tends to work pretty well. And I did that on this project, which I won't talk about too much, but 3 different base maps, and we kind of picked different features from each one. to end up with a nice product at the end. That's the before and after of that one, so I feel like it was a success. I'm gonna skip this one because I don't have a ton of time left, but the big one is like, sometimes all of these strategies are just not gonna be effective. Like, people have different opinions and they might not see the vision that you see, and that's okay. And it's very hard, I've found, like as a designer, as a cartographer, like I care a lot about the things I make and I want them to look nice and I want to like them myself. So it's important to me to be opinionated, but not attached. Like, you don't want to get defensive about your design. They're paying you for your expertise and experience, but maybe the way you're making your argument isn't working. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you say, you're just not gonna win, and that's okay. Most hills are not worth dying on. And when you take pride in your work and you have to make something you don't love, like, that's not the best, but at the end of the day, it is work, so it's their product, not yours. And an example of this that was frustrating for me, but I can deal with it now, is we spent 3 months on a project with one color palette that they loved, I loved it too, and then they showed the CEO like at the last second, and he didn't like it. And then they said, can you try some other options? And I tried like, I don't know, 30, and they didn't like any of these. And they came back and gave us like hex codes, and they said, these are the 5 colors we want to use. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Tried every other thing I could possibly think of, and what they ended up with is fine. Like, I wouldn't have picked it, but if they're happy, if they're happy, I'm happy, that's great. No, and that was my argument originally, and I was like, all of these other ones are, and I've really, the question was it colorblind safe? The one they picked is not, and I tried to convince them that that was not a good thing to do, and it's okay. That's their product, they can deal with it. So I hope that this is helpful in thinking about how to talk about your work and not get attached, even when things are a little frustrating. But I'm sure other people have tips, so if there's something to add, please let me know. And I don't know if I have time for questions. Maybe?
Yeah, we've got so much time.
Okay,
We're going to take questions.
Thank you.
That CEO story hurts a little bit.
One question that I have when working with clients and stuff is, how do you get better at sort of estimating how long each of those phases will take, either on an organizational level or even on a personal level, how much you can get done in a given time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is hard. And at Stamen, like, a lot of us are kind of multidisciplinary, so we do a lot of different things. Like, I design interfaces in data viz and maps. And I do those all at like a different rate, like a speed, not like price, but yeah, it's hard. Like, I feel like I know how long things take for me, but then sometimes someone else will say, oh, it'll take her this long, and I'm like, no, it'll take an hour. It won't take 2 weeks. Just like practice, it's like you learn over time, I guess, how to do it, but better to overestimate and then have budget left over than not. That's the business person talking here, but yeah. Time, I guess, is the answer.
Just wondering if you ever have to ask for amendments, and if you have best practices for navigating that, if so.
Amendments like to a contract or something? Yeah.
More money.
More money, yes. Sometimes that happens, yeah. Or something else we like to do is like, oh, we love that idea. That doesn't fit within the scope that we have now, but we're going to put that on the list for the next engagement we have with you. That's like a little, I don't know if it's a trick, but it usually works pretty well, because then you have a whole list of things at the end. You're like, we couldn't get to these because of the scope we had, but look at all of this work we could group into a new round of work with you. For like a change to an existing contract, usually they understand. I feel like people tend to be really reasonable. It is nice to have like someone on a project who is not doing the work help with those conversations, like a project manager who can defend the scope for you. But I've had to learn to get good at it myself. Yeah.
any kind of non-negotiables as far as like quality of work? Like you mentioned the colorblindness, and I think for me, like accessibility is something that I want to like have like in my brand identity of sorts, I guess, where I'm like, I care about that. I don't want to make something inaccessible. I'm gonna like, it takes a lot of time even if I make an interactive map and then also like a table option to toggle between, you know? So like, do you have anything like that? And if so, like, how do you communicate, no, like, I won't do that?
Yeah, we don't often pull out the no, I won't do that. Unfortunately, there's like the I would really prefer not to, or like here's what I'll give you and you can do whatever you want with it later. I think it like comes off kind of adversarial to present it like that, but you know, Stamen's been around for a long time, and we're not cheap. So part of the pitch is like you're paying us a lot of money usually to do a project, and these are the things that make our work good, that we care about accessibility, that we test for colorblind friendliness, that we want things to look modern and work well and not be buggy. So that is part of the whole package that you're paying for. And if someone decides they don't care about that, then okay, but that almost never happens. Usually they do. They understand like that's one reason they hired us in the first place.